Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. And all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we publish somewhere around 75 children's books, and we've all taught illustration at university art schools.
That is correct. Each week we come at you guys with fantastic illustrator interviews or questions from people just like you. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
That's right. And I was listening to that intro. I was going to say we should throw in children's books and graphic novels or comics, but it's just me that's done that. But I want to I want it to be a part of what we're doing because we got so many people in SVS who are interested in graphic novels and want to do comics. So maybe is there a way to update that to make it more inclusive?
Well, I think we could say we've published this many books, we've done graphic novels, we've done projects for advertising. I mean, we could just somehow have like a 3-category thing. We've done all these because we have done all this stuff. I mean, it's not just that. We've made games. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I've designed cards for trading card games. You've done the tarot deck. Will's doing a card game. It's going to come out next year, or you've done it, I guess. It just
it's actually in LA right now, getting loaded onto trucks to come here to Phoenix, Arizona.
That's here it comes. Exciting. Very nice.
Yeah. I just want to say too, like our studio, the SVS Studio, which if you don't know, for the people listening, is our people who've joined SVS who are wanting to really level up and have a bit more engagement with other studio members and a bit more engagement with us. We've been doing like these pretty regular live stream events for the studio. And I just did one this week. It was a pro demo. So each month, one of us, whether it's us three or Sam, David, or Anthony, we're doing a pro demo where you just get to sit, chill with us as we create a piece of art, or we walk you through something we've made, or we explain like the process of something. And for me, what I did was I took a prompt from the studio and designed a brand new Pokemon character, because I'm kind of low-key into Pokemon these days, like for the past 18 months, I guess, playing it with my son and like collecting cards, and it's so fun. And I just can't believe I didn't get into it sooner because I really do enjoy it. Like, anyway, but that said, so the suggestion was goat crystal. So it was like, give me an animal and give me some sort of element. I'll combine them into something. And then we just sat through and I showed them the whole process. Like, I don't know about you guys. Well, I know you guys work this way as well, but it's rare that you can just come up with something out of your head. Like there's a phase where you pull reference and you're doing a little research. And I showed them how I pull reference, and I made a little like an inspiration board and walked them through that process, and then showed what I was pulling from the inspiration to make my image. And I kind of feel like that part was one of the big aha moments for most of the people there, is watching that process, because artists rarely show that process. They're always showing like, here's how I add the highlight, here's how I sketch the form or something like that. And then I walk through all that stuff. But Lee, you joined me there. What was your like?
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, just to reiterate, the overall vibe in the studio feels like, it feels like 200 people hanging out together and doing art. I mean, that's really what it feels like, because there's all kinds of stuff going on, in addition to the pro studio. And I don't want this to sound like a cheesy ad. It's just really fun. I'm having a lot of fun, and that's like a good thing. I mean, you definitely know you're doing something right when you look forward to showing up every day. I'll talk about Jake's thing in a second, but like last week, Anthony Wheeler and I did the Freaky Friday draw along, where we post reference pictures, and we project our screen or our drawing table, and we draw in real time. You can watch how we do it. You can watch us mess up. You can watch us do some good stuff too. And last week was plants, animated plants. So like we have like a buff weightlifting cactus or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it was just so fun to do.
The
And
best
then
part of
and
that
then
is watching everybody post theirs.
right.
You know,
And you see all the different media, you see all the different techniques, all the different drawing styles. I mean, it's just so cool. And sometimes you're just like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Like putting the Speedo on the cactus, I never would have thought of that. But Anthony mentioned it. And so then I put it on mine. And it's just a synergy that's hard to get if you're drawing by yourself in isolation. But anyway, so then I joined Jake at the pro demo. I didn't have to be there even. That's how much fun I'm having is like, Jake, I saw Jake was on the schedule and I'm like, I'm going to join him because it just, I just want to see what happens, what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. And so we got in there and it was the Pokemon prompt. And I was able to throw some suggestions in there and then Jake's able to adapt it in real time. If you haven't seen somebody do that, it's impressive and it's fun. By the end, we get to a stage. I'm going to say we, like I did something. Get to a stage where it's a really polished piece, and it's always fun watching pros draw and paint because you always see it, like you understand it while they're doing it. And like, oh, Jake's pulling reference. Oh, now we're doing rough sketches. Yeah, I get that. And now we're changing the feet. Now we're adding some crystals on the horns. And, I get all that. And then all of a sudden, like I take a sip of my water and then I turn back up and I'm like, whoa, how did it get to look so cool? You know what I mean? There's a jump that happens, but it's in real time. You can watch it. And we do record it all so people can watch it back if they're like, wait, how did he get there? And that's one of the biggest bonuses is all this stuff is typically start to finish. It's not just posting something that's done. And so you can go back and look at it. But the finished piece is gorgeous. And, Jake has some different techniques than I do. We talked about that in the streams. It's just a lot of fun to show up and see what's happening without it being a pressure situation. And it's always before I thought the focus is, just like, I'm going to be a pro. I need to do these exercises and get my portfolio and then go show it to a client. It just seems so, I don't know what the right word is, rigid, I guess. And now it feels like a community. It is a community.
What's been really cool is seeing, so Jenny is being really good about posting her homework on like for how to draw everything and posting her process. And every once in a while she'll get stuck and she'll come into the 24/7 like hotline, right? Where if you like, I need an answer within 24 hours on how to fix this thing. She's just like, what's going on here? What's wrong with this? And to see Erin pop in and just be like, well, here's how I would solve it. And she posts this like really cool diagram of how to do like ellipses in like a way that's super understandable. And just to see the community come together and like, here's my draw over and here's how I would do this thing, and then I'll come in and like, I did my step-by-step because I ran through something in the video kind of quick, one little section. And that wasn't something she didn't quite get. So I came in and showed her step by step. This is the process that is done.
Well, that's actually a good point because it is moderated by pros. We have, I think 6 to 7 pros that is monitoring all this stuff. So it's not just a free for all. If somebody posts something where there could be a better explanation and a pro sees it, we're going to go in there and talk about it. Even that tip that Erin was given was based on one of the other lectures that we did during the pro demo days right in the beginning. Yeah. And so, you get this trickle down effect that is just really cool from the pros all the way to beginner.
Yeah. Yep.
It's pretty neat.
And if you join at any level, you are going to get within, 10 minutes of you introducing yourself, you're going to get a hello, welcome from Will Terry.
Will's trying to step up his posting game this year.
Well, I enjoy meeting everybody too. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And that wasn't a joke. You will get a welcome from Will Terry. It's funny. Every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, the new person. And then Will's already in there. Sam's already in there welcoming him.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's fun to be able to do this. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, we got some questions today. So let's just dig right down into them if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah.
The first one comes from Beverly.
Hey, wait, before we get into the question, can I do a cheesy commercial since we're talking about our community?
Yeah, go for it.
My cheesy commercial, you told me this is dropping March. It's February now, but it's going to drop in mid-March, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in April, I have my beginner series workshop for watercolor, and we've ironed out all the details and things, except for which is the exact start date, but somewhere in the early part of April. So you can check that out on our website. And this class is going to basically just cover all of the material. If you walk into an art store, I don't know how beginners walk into an art store. There's 5,000 paints. There's 200 brushes. There's a whole wall of paper. How do you make sense of all that stuff? So there's that part of art. And then there's the other part is picking the right thing. Like I'm a part of these Facebook groups, and I'm not kidding you. I saw a beginner watercolorist, pick a white house in the snow at dusk. I was like, I can't think of a harder painting to start with than that. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you don't know how to use materials. I didn't say this to her, but I was thinking it. Yeah. You don't know how to use your materials, and you don't have basic technique down. And I see that pattern playing out over and over. People struggling. They think they're a bad painter when really they're fighting the materials and they're fighting basic technique. Mm-hmm. And that's why I built this workshop. It's called Watercolor Essentials, and it is it's a 14-day time period, but every other day video exercises and lectures launch. And then I'm going to be live every other day as well, helping you guys through these exercises. So it has been a beast to put this thing together. I'm still filming. I thought I was going to film the whole class in a week's time period. I'm 3 weeks in, and I'm just on day 3 of the videos. It's so much filming and prep work and stuff like that, but I am super proud of it because at the end of the class, you will know exactly what brush to use. You will know exactly what paint to use and what paper to use and how to use it. And so that's my pitch. You can find out more. I'm going to give away the first 2 videos. That's just on paint selection for free. So you can check that out at svslearn.com.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Question comes in from Beverly. Subject title: sure, yeah, it's for personal use. Do you like the delivery of that?
Mm-hmm.
A little
sarcasm thrown in there.
A little questionable.
Well, this is a little bit of a sardonic question. She said, I had someone reach out to me asking to illustrate a poem for them that they wrote for their children. Sounds innocent enough? Yeah, I'll do a little illustration for you.
Sure.
Let's forget the fact that it's 25-ish images, so basically a children's book, and they don't have the budget for that. And then she says, but how do I know they won't try to publish this later on, even if they don't intend to now? I just don't trust people. Okay, so there's a lot of elements here.
I have the perfect answer for this.
What's your perfect answer?
So, and she doesn't come right out and say it, but I'm assuming from the question that she's saying that she's considering or has already started on illustrating it. I have this lingering cough that just like it comes out of nowhere. It's like that.
I know. I hate that.
From nowhere.
Did you get the flu type A? My son has flu type A, and his whole school is basically wiped out. I mean, it is.
I had some. I didn't go in, but it had me really good for about 6 days.
Dang.
I lost my voice completely, so that's why I couldn't podcast last week. So I'll try to get to it. But we now have. Well, okay. So I'm going to assume that she is saying that she's either started it or in the process of it, or she's going to do it. But she's worried that, she's saying she's doing it for them just as a favor for them, for their kids. Mm-hmm. But how does she know that they're not going to then down the road, she's going to see it published somewhere and they're making money off it and she's not, right? So that's like that's the premise. So I would say this, like, people can always do something that's unscrupulous. People can always go back on their word. And really, as I see it, the only protection you have is either A, not doing it because you don't trust them. But if you go forward and want to do it, then it's a contract. And the coolest thing right now is we have ChatGPT, where you can write an amazingly detailed contract. You can specify, you can go in there and tell it, I want to write a contract and I want these things included, and it will do everything. And you can say, this is going to be an artist agreement for a client. And anyway, the more you feed it, the more it will write a more detailed contract specific to your situation. So I would say, this is for you and your children only. This is not for reproduction rights in any form, either electronic or print, or any form of electronic reproduction is specifically prohibited. And you can have them sign that contract. Now that what that does is that basically, if you see it later on, you could then take them to court, and you'd have a contract that they'd signed, and you could.
Well, were you
fight it out
that
in court.
parent that had the kids sign a waiver before they jumped on the trampoline at your
Should have
house?
been. Well, one of the things you're going to get, I agree with Will 100%. But one of the things you're going to get is you feeling guilty about giving them a contract. Oh, they don't trust me, or I don't trust you. Or the person will think that I'm your family, I'm your friend. Why would I need a contract? The way to sell that is, it's not because I don't trust you. It's just so everybody understands what's happening.
This is what I do with all my work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for communication. And I truly believe that. It's not because you don't trust the other party or they don't trust you. It's so everybody understands what is going on.
So we remember what we said.
Right.
One thing I don't understand is, let's say this is someone reached out. Someone reached out, but let's say it's a friend, or let's say it's a neighbor or something like that. Let's say you have a friend or a neighbor who loves woodworking, and they're always out there in their shop, and they're making tables, or they're making like cool little stools and stuff like that. Would you ever like go over to them and be like, I just love my grandkids, and I have this cool little like nook, a reading nook I've made for them in my house so they can come over and read, but we need a cool little like rocking chair. Will you make a rocking chair for me? Right. And just like, you wouldn't ask your neighbor to do that. That's like hours of work plus the materials, plus they could cut their thumb off in the process. But yeah, with the artists, it's like, you love drawing. Like, why don't you just, would you mind drawing a thing for me to do 25 illustrations for any project?
That's a year.
Right.
I mean,
it's so much work. So I just feel like there just needs to be some like public education going on here about that. You wouldn't ask also like someone to record, say your neighbor plays trumpet. Could you record like a song for my kids? I got this really cool idea for like a fun song. Would you just like record it for me? So unless it's like a good friend and you have this understanding of like, you've done something for them already, and it's like you have a relationship where it's like, I do little drawings for you, you do little things for me, just to ask someone point blank to do that. It has to come with, asking someone has to come with like, I respect what you do, and I will compensate you for your time. Now, how does she handle this situation? It sounds like first off, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And there's nothing wrong with saying, no, thanks. And you don't have to lie about it. You don't have to come up with an excuse. You could just say, you know what? The honest truth is, I have a limited amount of time to spend on my art, and this is not something I want to spend that time doing.
That's one of the benefits of being a little bit older, is understanding that point you just made, that I don't need to totally elaborate on my decisions. I can literally just say, no, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not interested in going. I'm not interested. Yeah. Just saying I'm not interested and moving on.
It's cool, but it's not for me. It's not for me. So there's that. But if it is something that like what Will's saying, if it's something you want to go down that path, then I don't know that you need a full-on contract, but you should have an email or something that clearly outlines that you guys.
No, you need a full contract, and it needs to state dates, what the job is specifically, how much the work you're going to do, and if there's any compensation or not, and where it's going to go in the rights. It just needs to have those things, and dates when the delivery dates are going to be. So it's a simple thing to do. Like Will said, ChatGPT will probably add those things, but just make sure dates, money, scope is all in there.
Imagine a world where someone does ask you that big ask, And then they're the ones that are offended if you want them to sign a contract.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. That question is answered.
Okay.
Let me just add the exclamation point.
It's
on
not
it.
quite answered
Anytime
yet.
you are agreeing to do anything for anybody, I think you should have a contract. If you rake leaves for your grandma, you should have a contract for that. I mean, maybe not that bad, but close, because the other person may have totally different intentions than you think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that you understand what they're thinking.
I make my grandmother sign a contract when she puts fruitcake in my face.
I'm under no obligation to eat this. I can regift this if necessary.
Lee made me sign a contract before going on air with them today for the podcast.
I'm going to sue you because you weren't supposed to be talking this much.
Oh, shoot. There's an NDA part of that too. Sorry.
You didn't read the fine print.
All right. Next is Robert. He asks, subject line, people buy stories, not products? What does he mean by that? He says, can you guys elaborate on the saying, people buy stories? I've been seeing this a lot on social media lately, and we had the Seth Godin quote in the Self-Publishing Pro class. Unless I'm misunderstanding what it means by story, because I don't think I've ever bought anything because of a story. Perhaps understanding this better will help me when it comes to selling my own work. I'm going to call BS on that you've never bought anything because of a story.
He just doesn't understand probably what it means.
He doesn't understand. So let me put it this way. Okay. My wife, she helps run a organization that helps with the kids at our church. Like, she's the president of the sort of the kid, making sure the kids are taught and learn stuff in church and have good activities and are brought up, properly or whatever. It's called primary. It's what they call it. And she's doing a service project for these kids so they can learn a little bit about helping and serving others, right? And so one of the things they're doing is a food drive. And so everybody, food drive for other needy children. So in March, everybody needs to deliver one section of food to the food drive, like crackers or like chips or like fruit snacks or juice boxes. Okay. So I just explained to you, if you want to help the kids, go ahead and help them. Now, let me ask you too. Do you feel like donating to this project that my wife's doing from that explanation right there? You're kind of on the fence.
Yeah, it's a little dry.
Okay, let me tell a story. All right. The junior high school that I went to growing up, Carson Junior High, has seen better days. When I was in high school or junior high school, it was pretty cool. It was a good school. Lots of things have happened since then that have kind of turned some of the neighborhoods around in there. There's been some people leaving that part of the city and going to other less expensive places or whatnot. So it's really on the downturn. And my wife was talking to the principal at this junior high school about the kind of students that he has. And he says I know of 40 students that go to my school who are homeless. That means they're going to junior high and they're sleeping on someone's couch or they're sleeping in their car and they're homeless, much less do they have access to food. So the only food that they get is the school lunches we feed them here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they do on the weekends. I don't know how they're getting food on the weekends. He said there's also a good chunk of kids that go here that haven't signed up for free lunches because they don't want to be registered on the with the government that they need free lunches because they're worried that their parents will be deported, right? And because their parents are here illegally. So we have a bunch of these kids that, regardless of how their circumstances brought them there, they're really in a bad spot and there's no way for them to get out of it. And so what my wife and this principal have decided to work on is, what if we gathered a bunch of food from some of these richer neighborhoods over on the East Valley, and we provide weekend meals for all these kids, for these 40, 100 200 plus kids that are going without food for the weekend. So all we need is these items, and we just need them delivered, and then we'll put it, her primary kids from church are just going to put them together and drop them off at the school, so that it's essentially kids feeding kids with the help of the community. So would you guys be interested in helping out with that?
Sign me up.
Heck yeah.
Okay, what's the difference between the two there?
Yeah, there's no connection, or there's a personal or some kind of fundamental human experience connection.
Yeah,
that you have, and that's a emotional vibe. Let me do another example. That was a good example, but that can have the feel of charity.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, there's still a way to tell, like, what if you don't have a story like that? I mean, that's a great story, of course.
Well, that was the example I thought of, because that was
it's a good one, and it's one to think about for sure.
Let's apply it to you as an artist and your project.
Right. So here, let me give you a real world example that actually just took place last week, and it's something that I'm actually a part of. So we've talked a little bit about me building a half pipe in my basement, right?
Yeah.
The company that came out to do that is one of the builders of the X Games. They just built a huge ramp in Phoenix for an event this weekend for Danny White. And this is a huge, they deal with these big time things. So why did they come here and build this ramp with me? It's because of the story that I had. So again, doing what Jake did, they could either put their ramps online. Hey, look at this cool ramp.
How fun is that?
Yeah, is Jake going to see that and think he's going to buy a ramp, or any other person who's, especially for people who aren't 20 years old, you're just not going to connect with that, especially if you've left skate. A lot of people used to skate as kids and they don't anymore, but you're not going to connect with that. Why would I?
Yeah.
But the story that they told, and the reason they came here, is that I am a specific demographic, somebody who used to skate a long time ago and was pretty good at it in my late teens and early 20s, dropped off, of course, as life got complicated and you go through your career. And then the story is, after talking to them for a bit, is, being an adult sucks. That's sort of the top line item. Being an adult is just paying taxes and going to the dentist and all that crap. And at a certain point, you start eyeballing things that, from your youth, like, remember that it used to be so much fun. I didn't worry about taxes.
I'm so into Pokemon lately.
Yeah, exactly. So they came out, they built the ramp, and then they interviewed me, and they were talking about it. Why am I going back into skating? Well, it's something from my youth that was really, really fun. It's a way to connect to having fun. I'm not dead yet. And there's no reason that at my age now that I can't learn new things and have an authentic experience that is purely based on having fun and being physically fit without being bored. Who wants to go be on a treadmill when I can be on a half pipe? And so that's the story they told, is like, hey, you're not dead yet. You can do the things you want to do, whether it's skateboarding or not. The story is finding a passion, and, age be damned, limitations be damned. You go right back into it. Mm-hmm. And so they're just going to follow. So we filmed some of my skating, and then they're going to follow me over the course of a year. Watch this guy who's 55 years old, who hasn't skated in 20 years in this way. Watch him progress, and you can progress too. It's just a more they're hoping, and I'm hoping, that it's a more captivating story than, oh, look, here's a ramp.
Yeah. All right. So, Will, your Wicked Christmas project, or even Pickleball Paul, what was the story behind that? Instead of saying, hey, I got a new book, or I got a new card game
out. Well,
with
the card game, the way that I used story was, well, on my YouTube channel, I have been doing a series where I'm bringing people along. So the story is the creation process of, like, how do you make a children's book, or how do you make a card game from scratch and market it, right? So those people are tied into the making of, right from the very beginning. On our Facebook ads, one of the things that we sold it was, hey, we're a new startup company who's has a passion for games. We love playing games, and we really love Christmas, and we wanted to make a really fun game that kind of pokes fun at Christmas, and that's just family fun. And so the story was pretty simple. We love games, and we play games, and we played games with our kids, and just love it. And we wanted to see if we could make something that's really fun that people will love. Simple story. But I do have another example of selling something with a story.
Let's hear it.
So I don't, as someone who did the vendor thing at comic conventions, where I have a soft spot in my heart for the person who's slugging it out at the booth, right? Who's trying to make a buck and make a living. And I always used to, whenever I would go to a comic convention, I would buy one thing, right? I was like, I'm gonna pay it forward by buying one thing from one vendor as a souvenir that I'll take home, right? But it's got to be something that I love, and it's got to be usually attached to a story of the creator that's explaining how they made this thing. So my office is, you can't see it, but it's filled with all of these little things that I collected from the dozens and dozens of shows that I went to. But I'm like, I can't save the world by buying something from everybody, right? So I also got a little bit calloused. So we were at the Quartzsite RV show a couple weeks ago, and I'm walking through the big tent where it's just a picture. It's like all shows are about the same, right? They're just filled with people trying to sell you stuff, right? And I'm walking down the row, and I'm like, I'm not going to get sucked in by every person trying to sell me something, right? It's got to be something that I'm already kind of sort of caring about. Well, this guy had this glue. It's like magic beans, right? He's like, this glue is the best glue that you've ever seen in your whole life. Well, I actually have a need for strong glue because I play pickleball, and I just ripped my shoe off the foot right here. And you'll see that I've got these two patches glued right here, right? Mm-hmm. That's because I have what they call pitcher's toe, where I drag my right foot as I swing when I'm right-handed and I swing. And I'll chew through a pair of these shoes like twice as fast if I don't constantly glue these patches where I wear the shoe out, right? So this guy is like, this is the best glue ever, and it can glue rubber to rubber, you know, and he's telling me everything, and I'm like, I'm hearing it, but I'm not into it, right? And I'm about to pass him by when he goes, let me tell you how I got into selling this glue. And I'm like, all right, now you got me. So I turned around and went back. I'm like, all right, give it to me. Give me your magic bean story, right? And he starts talking about how he does some stuff with molding and rubber and for insulating campers, RVs and stuff, and how he would use super glue because it was the best glue. Well, that's what I've been using on this. Super glue. Now I'm there all the way. And he's like, the problem with super glue is two things. One, you glue your fingers together, right? Which is painful if you ever get it stuck and you have to like get it, you know, separate. But he goes, have you ever tried to save the super glue, you know, for the next use?
It's impossible. It's gone.
He's like, you can't. I'm like,
one-time use.
I'm like, preach to me, brother. Tell me your story. And he's like, I guarantee you that this little bottle, and it's $25, but it will not harden up. It'll last for years. You have to keep it in the refrigerator. It'll last for years, and it doesn't glue your fingers together, and it works just like super glue. I'm like, for $25, I couldn't pull my money out fast enough, you know. But he started in with his story on him, how he was frustrated that the thing that he was using, that was the story. The thing that he was using is got these two major problems. And I'm like, yes, it does.
Yeah, he identified the pain point, and then he solved the pain point.
Yeah.
Right. So that's sort of the way that it works, you know, reiterating
usage, which is like, and he showed me right there, he demoed it. He glued two pieces of rubber together and couldn't pull them apart. The rubber would break, the bond would not, you know. And I'm like, all right, it won't. I'm going, it ain't gonna work on my shoes, but I'm buying it anyway just in case.
Yeah.
And it does. It works.
You know, that's a great story. You know, elaborating on the booth experience, I've done a lot. Will's done a lot. Jake, you've done a fair amount of that stuff, but I think
it's been a while, but yeah.
So when people come in and they're looking at work, you know, a lot of times they're inventing stories depending on what kind of artwork you have. But rarely are they just looking. But sometimes you can kind of see they're scanning the wall. They don't really know what to look at. So when I walk over to somebody, I've got two options. I could say, "Hey, let me know if you need any help. I'll be over here," and that's valid.
And you have another one. Like,
I've got another one that
Wanda,
is,
just buy something from me, please.
yeah, I get down on my knees and beg. I show them last year's tax statement, and then they feel sorry for me. No, I come up and I'll say, like, depending on what they're looking at, I'll start to tell the story. For example, there's this one image that I have this kid on a swing, and she's reading a book. It's a little girl reading a book, and then up in the tree is this octopus. And just one weird thing that's happened over the years of showing that image. Typically, when a little girl sees that image, she automatically assumes that the girl's reading about an octopus, and so she's kind of, the things that are in the book are sort of, around her in a physical way. So it's product of her imagination. And then the little boys that see that image think there is an octopus in the tree and it's going to attack the girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a funny thing. It's just a weird, and I don't lead them into that, but just over and over, I would hear that. I always ask, what do you think's happening in this image? And so I'll tell that little story, and that'll start this dialogue. And they're like, oh, well, what's this other one about? Why is this thing right here? I have an image of a patron saint holding a bunny. And I'm like, well, I was driving and I saw a cat that was standing over a scared bunny. But I was the flow of traffic was going. I couldn't stop and save this bunny. And I thought about it the whole ride home. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, that bunny needs a patron saint. And so I made this painting, Patron Saint of Bunnies. Every painting has that story, whatever story it is, and instantly they're hooked in. Yeah. Or I could say, hey, let me know if you have any questions.
Right. Yeah. I and really what it boils down to is there's two avenues to go here. One is the story of you, and one is the story of the work. So what Will said, hey, we're just a startup. We love games and we always play games and we love family time. And we thought, what better way to participate in this than to offer our own game? And we're new, and this is our journey of how I became, I went from just some guy who liked to illustrate to being, Mr. Toy Maker, right? And then Lee's is like, here's the story. This is what inspired this piece. And there's something in the middle of there that you could do, which is, and artists do a lot, is here's how this piece was made. Here's the story of a blank sheet of paper to a final thing. So I think all of this is just the point of it is you could just hold something up and say, buy it, or hold something up and say, hire me. Or you could say, here's my journey. Here's all the here's the nostalgia of my work. Here's all this stuff, and appeal to emotional level, and probably have way more success doing that. So, okay.
That was a good question. We've never got that one before.
Yeah. Robert's got good questions. Okay. Last question comes from David, and the subject is shrinkage. He said, in the past, I worked with pen and ink on paper to do my art and worked at a larger size so that when it was reduced, it smoothed out the imperfections and it looked better. But now that I'm working digitally, I'm wondering if there's any benefit to doing that. For example, if I'm doing an 8x10 book, should I be working at a larger size and larger resolution than the finished art? Or should I simply be working at a large resolution and at the same time, at the same size as the finished submission size? And then there's a follow-up question after that about your tarot decks. So this is a process question. We haven't taken a process question in a while, but when you're working digitally, does it matter?
Let me take a stab at this one. It used to matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
Unless I will add the little asterisk, because there's always a outlier kind of scenario. If the finished work is for example, a tarot deck where my finished size is 3x5, that's too small for me to do anything with later. In other words, if I want to make a poster out of it, for example, it's just that size. There's limitations with software, even the better ones now, that I'm never going to work 3x5. I work 16x20 on those, and I reduce them down, not because of the resolution or anything like that for going smaller, but if I want to use it bigger later. So only reason I'm doing that is because the finished size is so small. If it's a decent size, 8x10, 11x14 or bigger, you can probably work at that size. Now, I wouldn't have given the same answer even 2 years ago, but we pro or con for AI image generation. That's one conversation, but the functional aspect of AI in terms of image size and scale is incredible. The company called Topaz I use even so there were some images I had 11 by 14 that I couldn't sell 16 by 20. I didn't have a good enough scan, and Photoshop wouldn't enlarge it in a good enough way that I was comfortable selling it. Topaz AI is made for that kind of stuff. And I could almost go wall size with something that's originally 11 by 14, and it's incredible.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's called Topaz AI. And so I went through all my images and I at the original size and scaled them up using that. And now I have crystal clear 16 by 20 prints.
So you're making AI art?
I ask it to fix any of the imperfections too,
So
but we won't talk about.
So let me understand. What you're saying is there's a technology now where you can take a piece that's too small, and the AI will figure out how to scale it up and fill in all the missing data.
For the most part, there are some gaps. Again, if you're starting with a 2-inch by 2-inch image and you want a wall size poster, it's going to try as hard as it can. there'll be problems in it, and it does introduce some problems. I've started to recognize when it has trouble with stuff and what it has trouble with. So it's not.
Tell me the software is voice operated, and you have to say computer enhance image.
It always adds extra fingers, though. I will add that little caveat. No, but it's really good. It's called Topaz AI, and it's great for scaling, especially like up to say 300% of whatever size you started at. That's about the limit that I see, but it's perfect.
This is the AI that this is what artists need, is AI that actually helps you, doesn't replace you, but helps you get better. Right.
It doesn't do anything, but it just made my prints better. I feel better about selling them. They look better to the customer. The
other day I was designing a wedding invitation for my daughter who's getting married in June. And she had this really beautiful photo of sunset of her and her fiance kissing. But it was vertical and I needed to be horizontal. So I took it into Photoshop Beta, where they've got like the AI expansion tool, right? Whatever. And I just told it, let's expand this background to fill out the rest of this card. Did it in a second, and it was just like everything. It just looked great. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know how it does it, but it just like it was as if the photographer had shot horizontal instead of vertical.
Wow.
Yeah.
Portrait.
Did you have to paint a little bit on the seams or anything, or was it literally?
Nope. If you select over the seams just a few pixels, it blends it just fine. Just knows where to pick up where you left off.
Sometimes I've had it do some sort of weird repeats in there that I have to clean up.
Well, that's because you're using auto fill, background fill. But
instead of the AI generator.
In Photoshop Beta, if you punch in the little AI window, which other people are using to like finish this illustration for me, start to finish, but it's great for, when you understand that Adobe doesn't really realize that illustrators use their programs. They just think that, if it's named Photoshop, it's being used by photographers, which I assume predominantly that's the main users of Photoshop.
I think they use Lightroom or Lightbox.
I mean, they're using, it depends on what they're needing to do. But like Photoshop is just amazingly built to alter photos.
Yeah.
Like
retouching is such a dream on it for sure.
So a lot of times, like if you're just doing illustration stuff, especially comics, I'm like, go get Clip Studio Paint, Clip Studio or whatever it's called. Go get that, familiarize yourself with it, and use that for all the drawing and anything you need to do. But if you need to go in and color correct and massage color and adjust things and fix things and use the blur tool and filters and all that stuff, there's nothing better than Photoshop.
We're looking at a picture from Will. What's this?
What are you doing, Will? This is an image that I did many, many years ago, but I accidentally threw away the large version of it This is like a 5x7 at 72 DPI.
Yeah.
And so like if I zoom in, you can see it's just
It's
completely
pixelated.
So are you telling me that I could get this back again?
Send it to me right now. I'll do it.
You got it.
Yeah, I got to see this. How did you accidentally throw that away? You're still sharing your screen. I could see your Facebook
There we
post
go.
about
Oh
the
gosh.
Because I'm in
about the speeding
about
signs in your neighborhood.
the Happy Trails board. So because how did I lose it? Because I didn't have a good system back in the day. And I was
Back in the day, that illustration's like 5 years old.
no, that one's not that.
Oh,
I actually ripped that one off to do the cover for my what they don't teach in art school. So it's very
you took
similar.
an old illustration and
Yeah. Have you ever
updated it?
ripped yourself off?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what that is. So,
All the time. In fact,
I don't really know. I don't remember throwing it away. I just
Yeah.
remember going into my archive one day and that it was gone.
You send it to me?
I'm sending it to you right
can I
now.
speak to that for just a
I
second?
can't
here?
talk and send at the same time.
You send, I'll talk. I'm now in year 27
Mhm.
of being a professional artist, and of those 27 years, 25 have been on a computer. So 2 years I got to be a non-computer traditional artist, and then someone handed me a tablet and a copy of Photoshop, and I was like, oh, I guess we're doing this now. But what I'm saying is, you are going to have at some point, there's some 20-something-year-old listening to me. At some point, you're going to have 20-year-old files on your computer. Okay. And for us, I mean, we still got, we're not dead yet. We're still drawing and painting and working on stuff. We've got another 20
Can I
years.
trademark that?
We've got another 20 years of file management. And so what I recommend is figuring out right now a really good file management
Like,
system.
don't be stupid like I was.
Yeah. So what I would do is just name your stuff, name your file that you created, a name that describes what's in the image. Because sometimes I'm just like illustration 2. I have no idea if it's an illustration of a dinosaur or if it's a motorcycle or anything. And so someday you're going to be like, oh, did I ever where's that motorcycle drawing? And you're going to be searching for the motorcycle drawing and not know that you accidentally named it illustration 2. Okay. So what I would do is name your file, whatever it is that's in the image, followed by, you could put a date on there, although date is baked into it, but followed by version 1, version 1.2, all the different versions of it, right? And then the next thing is you save that in a folder that is organized by project. So let's say if it's just a random sketch project that you're doing, it's art for whatever, just put it into like your grab all folder for art. But if you have a specific project, keep a folder for that project and put in subfolders in there of, here's the JPEGs, here's the PSDs, here's the reference information or reference material, here's the, especially if it's a freelance job, here's all the administrative like documents, the contracts, the brief that you're getting, all that stuff. Keep that in there and keep that organized, and your life is going to be so much better and so much easier when you have to go back and search for something. And like just recently I had to go back and like I was looking for a lecture that I had done 10 years ago or 7 years ago on comics, and I wanted to reuse some of the stuff for Graphic Novel Pro. And so I could not find this lecture anywhere. And it turns out that I knew I had saved it somewhere, like the original file somewhere. I never found that. All I found was when I presented this at the Provo Library, my folder that said Provo Library presentation. And I went in there and I'm like, there it is. I still don't know where the original files are. Those are just like the exported JPEGs for it. So I had to like cut them apart in Photoshop and kind of Frankenstein them into the new lecture. But Yeah, figure out a file management system that's going to work for you for the next 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever.
Where were you 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Where was I 15 years ago?
Yeah, I could have used you then.
Yeah.
Lee's trying to fix this. Has been bugging me for that long, by the way.
Okay, so I'm going to show it to you, Will.
Okay.
You ready for this? I don't think you're ready.
I gotta see. Share that screen.
Share.
So
that
we're on
screen.
we're on YouTube at
Share
School of Visual
that
Storytelling. If you
screen.
want to see what we're looking at.
All right. This is a zoomed in part of your image, right?
Right. It's got artifacts. It's like,
It's horrible, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to drag this across like a magician waving his magic wand.
What? Holy!
wow.
Oh my gosh!
That would be a 3,000 by 3,000 pixel image if I
Wow.
exported it at this point. I can even go in. I can go more. I could go to, this would be 3240 by
You know,
3240.
drag it back.
It's for those
Wow.
of you listening. It added like Will's texture, painting texture. It somehow figured from the pixels.
Wait, just look at the stairs. Hold on, just look at the stairs. I mean, that is originally it is a pixelated mess. Will has
Yeah.
drawn these like quirky little stairs coming down. It's almost perfect.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few oddball choices that it's thrown in there. Some like AI.
Well, but also
artifacts stuff.
look how zoomed in we are. Like
Yeah,
that's the size of the whole
Yeah,
painting.
but when
Yeah.
you zoom, show the girl's face. Zoom in on that.
Okay. How do I do
So
that?
we're going to be accused of being lovers of AI art.
I know.
Right.
Well, I love this, so whatever.
So accuse me.
Yeah, see, Will's gonna have to go in and repaint probably the face, but you're talking, that's the face before.
Well, her face
Yeah,
didn't
that's-
look good to be, the fact that, it was so
But
small.
look at that plant though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And look
Wow.
at look at the door behind it. That is zoomed in, by the way, 400%.
Wow.
Computer enhance.
It's crazy. But it's amazing that it can actually hold that together. And like I said, it's helped me feel good about the quality of my bigger prints. And it's actually enabled me to go 20 by 24, which
Mm.
I've never been able to do with a print. I just can't hold the quality.
How much does this cost?
I think it was like, it wasn't cheap. I think I put it on Will's credit card. It's like $300 or something. It's not
One
cheap,
time-
but it's pro level.
One-time fee. It's not a subscription or anything.
I think it's yearly, and it came with 3 programs. I originally got it because of the other program that was cleaning up video. It does this with video,
Right.
but it is not worth it because even a 1-minute video takes like 2 days to render.
But
Why
when you
did
have that
need
Lee
videos
White
cleaned
kind of
up, or
money,
do I wanna
Jake,
know?
when you got that Lee White money coming in,
That's right. Money is no object for me, but I mean, I've already made that back in selling bigger prints. So
You-
it's,
do you know if Mid-Journey or Chat GPT could do that? Like, is that a feature they
No.
offer?
No.
I don't think they offer that. I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, that stuff, it doesn't interest me that much, but anytime that I can actually fix, like you were talking about with the super glue, this is a version of your super glue story. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't go bigger. Now I can go bigger.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, did we answer the
I
question?
think we
here?
answered the question.
I think we did.
We really went on a couple of tangents of tangents.
That's what life is. Life is a tangent, and you enjoy it.
Not dead yet. Trademark.
And speaking
Wanna-
of tangents, how about a couple of life stories?
Well, we have one follow-up question.
Oh, do you have
here
another question?
that David? Well, David is a two-parter.
Oh, the one about the
two
Lee's
non
tarot deck.
sequiturs. So he says, "Can Lee explain who the market is for tarot decks? Who are these people?"
The A, witches. B,
B, wizards. Can I ask?
C,
I was at-
warlocks.
I was at the
Warlock.
witch store the other day, and they had a wide assortment of tarot decks.
And crystals, right? No, but let me ask you this. You've heard there is a thing I've seen online where like girls women will get together as witches and do witch stuff. Like, I don't know if they're being
that a thing?
serious. I don't know if it's just like a fun drinking, party thing, or I don't know. But you never see guys getting together doing wizard stuff.
They
Well,
LARP.
not until right now.
They
the three of
LARP
us.
with the swords and stuff. That's their.
Yeah.
We
Anyway,
need to start a wizard society.
Listen, if if there's fun to be had, count me in.
The market, that's an interesting question. I didn't know really the market when I had first started that. The market is absolutely massive for it. I mean, it goes anywhere from the classic sort of stereotype for somebody who looks at tarot decks is also somebody who looks at crystal balls and tries to read tea leaves and stuff like that. That's sort of an outdated, silly version that, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that are still into that. That's not my thing. There's just a ton of collectors, card game collectors, D&D, people that play D&D, people that play Pokemon, anybody who's into sort of cards and collectibles. That's one part of the market. But the other part is people who use them as daily prompts. I mean, this is a question I get all the time. Like, hey, wait, I'm a Christian. Can I not look at the tarot deck? Or I can't buy your tarot deck. I would, but I'm a Christian. Then that's magic, black magic or whatever. And that's not the model now. The current model is a lot of people use them just as daily prompts. For example, no matter what you believe in religiously, you could pull a card that has a meaning to it, and you could see or ask yourself, what does that card, that theme mean to me? What does family mean to me? What does jealousy mean to me? How am I interpreting the people that I love? And
what if you pull the 8 Cups card?
That stuff is harder. I have to do a ton of research in that because it's not as just top. You got to dig down. Like, okay,
there's a market there.
They're like the 4 of Cups, for example. That is the theme of that is self-limitation. So like if you were, and the image that I did of that with that theme in mind, that's why this is such an engaging project for me, is I have a girl who's on a swing and she's in a cage, but the cage door is open, hinting at she put herself there and she could get herself out. Now the question is, will she? And so you contemplate on that. How does that, is there any thing in life that is limiting you that you are the one controlling that limitation? And you think about that. So that's sort of how I use it. And that's how a lot of the people that at least are into it in the way that I am.
Well, one night I was sitting there reading a book and your tarot deck was sitting on the counter. And every time I looked back at it, it was closer to me.
Yeah.
It was just closer and closer until finally I had to get up and put books on top of it so it couldn't move anymore.
It's not going to stop it because you got the little feet edition. There's hundreds of little feet on one side of the deck.
So is your next thing going to be a Ouija board?
Maybe.
branded Ouija board? A drifting moon Ouija board?
That's the expansion pack.
Yeah. Actually, that's another thing where I'm like, I don't know if I believe it or not, but I saw this woman posted this thing. She's like, during COVID, me and my husband thought it'd be fun to like start doing Ouija board. It was all fun until we met this spirit who started contacting us, like communicating with us through the Ouija board. And over the course of like the last 5 years, it's told us all about the afterlife and what's going to happen and Armageddon and all this stuff. And she has this notebook where she's written down all the messages that they've gotten and like stuff. And I'm just like, whoa, okay.
Well, here, if you're going to do that, you have to vet your spirits. That's what I say. And, that's why people write in for us. You got to ask them to future tell some event that you can measure it against. Tell me who's going to win the Super Bowl next year. Tell me who's going to win the horse race. They have to get a few things right. I'm not going to believe Armageddon until they give me who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. What if, oh man, that'd be a cool story actually. Like a Ouija board spirit that just wants to get its person rich. So it's like but the twist is the richness is going to like ruin their life because they know this person has no moral standards with money in a way, right? And so kind of like Biff, how he got rich through the almanac in
Oh
Back
yeah,
to the Future 2 and
that
turned
was a
into
cool mechanic in that story.
yeah. And it turns out the twist at the end is that this guy totally slighted someone, like he made fun of some homeless dude, and that homeless dude and like treated him horribly or something. The homeless dude dies, comes back as a spirit in through the Ouija board to like destroy this man's life because he wouldn't give him a few dollars of cash for a cup of coffee, and now he's like, I'm gonna destroy you with money.
Well,
That's
let
how
me
you
ask
end
you. Let
story.
me ask you guys for real. Do you believe in magical? I do not believe in magical items. My tarot deck, I do not think has any magical future telling properties. Like I said, it's good for reflecting on what you might believe or your situation might be. But do you guys believe in magical items?
I believe in magic in a young boy's heart.
I believe the children of the future.
Do you believe in magic in a
In a
young?
young boy.
Is it a boy or girl? I don't know.
In a young-
I believe in the power of sleight of hand. That
That's not a magical item. That's
well,
trickery and tomfoolery.
but in a way, it is magical.
It's magical to the viewer, but it's fake. I mean, I'm saying, do you believe like if I have the magic Wacom pen that it can do something, it can change how I draw, or do you believe in like a Ouija board that it can actually do that stuff?
Okay, I am superstitious about one thing, and that is, you see this pencil right here? Speaking of pencil, ever since I was a kid, when I first started using mechanical pencils, I discovered that if you put more than 3 pieces of lead in a mechanical pencil, you will lose it. You will lose it before you use up that lead.
Because of the 3.
Because of the
Or
3.
more.
If you put in 4, if you put in 5, you try to stock that thing up, you're going to lose the pencil. And so for the last 40 years, because I think I got my first pencil in 2nd grade, 7 years old, I've been putting 3 pieces of lead every time, and I haven't lost a pencil since.
That is really interesting. I only have one superstitious thing like that, and that I was going to do a book called Good Luck, Bad Luck. That half the book was good luck superstitions, and the other half was bad luck superstitions. And you'd turn it over so it had a different orientation. Nobody take that because I still might do it. But one of the things is when I was doing research is if you move into a new house, you never bring the broom from your old house.
Oh,
Some reason that's bad luck.
I've heard of that.
I don't know
you
why.
toss
but
that broom out.
you do not
I'm
bring it.
pretty sure big broom companies came up with that.
It's made by Big Broom.
Big broom.
Big Broom Industry.
Big brooma.
2 brooms for every house, they say.
Yeah. Now I come to think of it, I have an upstairs broom and a downstairs broom.
We have a broom in every room.
Broom.
A broom for every room. That's what they say in big.
A broom for every room.
Even my carpeted rooms have a broom.
Yeah, for some reason. And now I have to get the 2025 broom.
Totally different bristle structure. So
All right, I should take us out, and then if you want to stay after for Will's story, stay after, okay?
There you go.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. SVS Learn is made possible by 3 Point Perspective, or vice versa. I don't know which makes which one possible anymore. All I do know is that your hosts today are Will Terry, Lee White, and I'm Jake Parker. And our podcast, we just want to give a little shout out and a thank you to everybody who helps make this podcast possible. So our producer, Daniel Tu, our team manager, Preston Smith, our keeper of the curriculum, Austin Shirtliff, our show notes wrangler, Lily Howell, our chief operations officer, Lisa Fott, and our illustrator, Annalise Black. Now, go draw something.
oh, I'm laughing about the broom segment. I can't stop.
Big Brooma.
That is so
Okay,
stupid.
Will, what do you got for us?
All right. So this was probably when I was about, I'm going to say 7 or 8.
Hmm.
And I'm uh in the pool behind my house at our friend's house. They had like
Okay.
5 boys. So we're in there, picture a circular pool, and we're in there, and you're going to invent things to do, right?
Hmm.
So we start throwing this chlorine dispenser, this floating chlorine dispenser up in the air, and try not to get hit by it, right?
Yeah.
This thing looked like it looked exactly like a flying saucer, a white flying saucer. It's like
Hmm.
it was 2 pieces. You open it up, you put the chlorine pellets in there.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah. But the edge was sharp. I mean, it was like, not sharp, but it had a good edge to it.
Hmm.
So we're throwing it up, throwing it up, throwing it up. Well, I got bored. So I just stopped playing. But they kept going.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon they said, "Look out." And I looked up and it hit me right here.
Mm.
I still
On your
have it.
cheek, upper
Yeah.
cheek, right next to your eye.
And then they're looking at me and they're like, I'm like, I mean, it hit me hard. I was almost
Yeah.
like seeing stars,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Because what's it
like
made out? It's like hard plastic.
hard plastic, yeah.
Yeah.
And
not like
and
a
I'm like,
frisbee.
am I all right? And they're like, they won't answer, and they're just like looking at me. Well, they're looking at me because my cheek was laid open, to the
Oh.
bone,
Oh, wow.
but it hadn't started bleeding yet because I was just standing there,
Yeah.
And they're like looking at me, and then I started to move, and then the blood just started coming down. Well, when you're wet, it multiplies the blood by 5 or 10, right?
Yeah.
So now they're screaming.
I get queasy with this kind of stuff.
Sorry, Jake. They're screaming at me, "You're bleeding!" I look down, and I'm just, my whole chest and stomach is just full of blood. So I'm running out of the pool. I get out, jump over there, jump out of the pool. I'm jumping the fence to go to my house, which was the chain link that it had the links were sticking above the bar. So those links grabbed my cutoff shorts that were threadbare.
Yeah.
Right off. Just shredded them. I ran right out of my shorts. So I run in the house. My mom and dad are in there. I run in screaming, and I am bloody, like head to toe, naked.
Like Carrie.
naked, bleeding in the kitchen, screaming.
Oh.
And my mom completely just starts freaking out. "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
And my dad's like, "Oh, he's got a cut." Like he just takes me, like, looks at he's got a cut. He'll be all right. Like, it was very reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice to have him in the face of that.
Well, that's what kids do, right? Is they react on other people's reaction.
Right. And anyway, I had to get stitches, so it was the first time. And when I heard that so they took me to the doctor. They patched me up and took me to the doctor, and they're like, my dad's like kind of prepping me, like, you might need stitches. This is, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, and they're like, well, they just kind of sew it back together. And I'm like, and that just sounded like, no, I don't
that's
want
the
that.
worst. Yeah.
So the whole way there, I'm like, but is there a chance I won't need stitches? And I forced him into saying that there's a chance, right? So that chance became like 99% I'm not getting stitches, right? And the doctor opens it up, looks at me like, "Oh yeah, we'll just stitch you up." And I start crying again because I'm going to get stitches. Well, you cry because you don't even know what stitches are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And anyway,
It's funny how you can talk yourself out of that kind of stuff. Oh, go ahead, Jake.
How old were you again?
I was 7 or 8. Yeah.
I love that 50 years ago, a 7 or 8 year old could just go to the pool with no parents or anything.
Right.
Different time.
Like, what were your parents doing? They were living their life.
Yeah, they
And
were
now-
living their
At
life.
the pool,
doing that.
probably.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, there's been some back and forth in our home. Like, just let the kids go do the thing.
You have
Actually,
enough, right?
Yeah.
You have enough kids.
Yeah, we got enough.
Got extras.
We could lose one or two.
We can make another one if we need to.
I remember that talking yourself out of what's actually going to take place at the hospital. When I was about that same age, we had gone to a neighborhood block party, and the people that were throwing this party had a Great Dane. And right when we got there, they said, whatever you do, don't run from the Great Dane. And but we were out back and we're playing and stuff, and then the Great Dane barks, and I mean that thing is tall as I am. They're huge.
Yeah.
And immediately I start running, of course, and the Great Dane chases me and jumps on my back. I don't think it was even attacking me. I think it was playing, but it jumped on my back, and I go face first towards a tree, and I managed to put up my arm, but it broke both bones in my forearm. So my arm sort of wrapped around the tree, if that's a way for you guys to picture it.
Yeah.
And so my arm's in basically a circle from my elbow to my wrist. And we're on the way to the hospital. And I remember my dad saying, oh, they're going to have to set it. It's broken for sure. And same thing as you, Will. I was like, I think it's just sprained. I don't think it's broken. And I was convinced I can fix this. It's not as bad as it was. And we get there, and the doctor set my arm by, grabbing it and, jamming it back in place or whatever. Ooh, that was some pain.
So Lee, why did you run from the Great Dane?
It was an instinct. I mean, like the dog barked, and I mean, I'm 7 years old. I don't know. I don't think I consciously thought, oh, I should run. I just
either that or bite it back.
Yeah, that dog was huge. It's probably 150 pounds. And I was all of, 40 pounds or 50 pounds or whatever.
Yeah. Now you're about 100 pounds.
I'm about 88.
Well, I don't have you know what? My only damaging story like that would be 5th grade. All I wanted for my birthday was a cool skateboard. I'd seen it at the mall, and I was like, oh, it was one of those skateboards that was like decked out for half pipes.
You'll shoot your eye out.
And it had the all the plastic, like the plastic
The
guards,
rails and the guards and all that. Yeah.
and on the base of it, it was awesome. It was called a Surf in Maui. Is what the symbol or the design on the bottom was, right? And it was like, I could still see it. It was like aqua blue with like reds and purples and stuff. Anyway, so I get it. I get the skateboard. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. And I don't know how to like skate perfectly yet. So this particular day, the day of, I'm going around on my knees, pushing off and just going on my knees as fast as I can, super close to the ground, because it's like, it feels like you're going faster.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Well, the wheels on this were also the kind of wheels that if it hits a pebble that's maybe the size of like an ant,
yeah,
it will stop in its place right there. I don't know how the physics on that works, but that's what happened. I'm going along full speed. In my head, I'm 50 miles per hour, probably 5. And I hit that rock, and my face goes straight into the asphalt like a cheese grater. Just. And I skin everything from my chin to my forehead. And I also lose my 2 front teeth.
Oh, that's not funny.
Broken in half. One clean in half, the other one like a diagonal chip towards it. And I'm like, and I feel my mouth, and I'm like, I feel the teeth in there. And I look down and I see, I don't even think I even thought to pick up my tooth. I just went running into my house. And it was the kind of skinned where you couldn't quite tell you were skinned yet because it hadn't started bleeding or anything. And so my mom's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, and I showed her, I'm like, I don't think I could even talk. And she starts freaking out, right? The same thing, right? Oh my gosh, Jacob. And my dad, I don't think my dad was there. Yeah, he's probably at work still, whatever. So then we go running out looking for the tooth, and we find it. And I calm down, and we're getting like me patched up and stuff. We take me to the dentist, emergency run to the dentist, and he glues the tooth back on, no problem. Well, the worst part of this whole thing was, the second worst part of this thing was I had scabs all up and down my face for like a month or however long a scab lasts. And kids at school thought that I was just like sloppy. They thought that like it was like pudding or something. And I remember like an older kid just being like, dude, wipe your face off. And I'm like, anyways, the worst part of that is I am still dealing with my teeth problems to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
From that?
It was from that. I actually had to get a root canal in my 20s
Ooh.
to like solve this problem, because those teeth just never fully, they're just structurally compromised. And then in 2010, I had my faceplant accident, my second faceplant
The other one,
accident.
yeah. Remember that
where I
one.
broke my face and broke the teeth again. And now the current condition is they're like, keep an eye on it, because, you know, in a couple, maybe a year or maybe less, whatever you do, don't bite into carrots. But they're like, we're going to have to go in there and replace these things again, because they're still.
Why do you keep landing on your teeth?
It's, you know, if you think about it, it's probably the best place to land.
I mean, they make little teeth shoes.
I should invest in a mouth guard at this point.
Full face helmet, Jake. Just wear it every day.
I tell you this, that problem that you were describing with the little pebble happens all the time, so much that when I go to the skate park, I bring a leaf blower.
Oh, really?
Get rid of those. I mean, they're like the size of a pea or like a BB or smaller.
Yeah.
They will stop your momentum cold, like just a dead stop, and
They
you get
will
pitched.
Wreck your
And
business.
it happens all the time. It's weird. I actually changed my wheels out because of that specific thing.
Can I ask you really quick? I've seen these videos online of like dudes at skate parks doing the most insane like backflips, landing on their skateboard and whatever. How do they do that without like dying? Like, how do they get, what's all the steps leading up to that where they don't kill themselves?
Well, they do have parks now. You know how like if you go to a trampoline park, they have the jump into the foam.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of places that do have that where you can do progressions, but some of that stuff you just have to send it and hope for the best.
Jeez.
I'll tell you, there's a YouTube video, if you Google it, when they first originally made a full loop, like a hamster wheel, like a loop. Tony Hawk was one of the first people to do that, and they have the progression of him doing it. And so he would go upside down, like he would go down the ramp, start going up the loop, and they throw a mattress underneath, knowing that he's going to fall. And he would miss the mattress sometimes, hit the mattress and spring off of it. I mean, it's a disaster. It looks so chaotic. And then after like 10, 20 tries, he does the loop and it's fine.
20 feet,
you remember,
right?
Yeah, just straight down.
Yeah, you start to remember what it feels like to not do the thing that didn't work the previous time.
Right. But I mean, there's a lot of pain involved at some of those things. And like I said, sometimes there's no progression other than, like, there's no half backflip on a skateboard or a bike.
No.
It's a full backflip, and you just got to do the thing.
That's why you should do it with snow under you. It's softer.
True.
Sometimes. So I watched this, speaking of skateboarding, I watched this reel the other day where this guy tries to do this kick flip grind thing, and he falls, like, I guess it was like the last straw, and he's mad. So he tries to stomp his skateboard. You know how they break them?
Yeah.
You know, he tries to stomp it and it won't stomp. So he hits it, he grabs it and throws it down, and it doesn't break. So then he gets on it right away, but he broke it, but it didn't show. But when he got on it, it broke in half and kicked him and threw him off onto his face.
A lot of people have that happen when they're trying. I mean, I see people get hurt by something, and then they try to get mad at the thing that hurt them, and then that thing ends up hurting them worse. It's pretty good.
I have an idea for because you see this a lot of times in movies where it's like the hero, you know, I don't want to say John Wick, but like one of those types of things where there's a couple of henchmen that get beat up by James Bond or whatever, or, you know, and he's in there and he twists the arm and cracks it, and he, like, you know, breaks the guy's shin or whatever, and then runs along and finishes his mission. I think it'd be really cool to make a video about that henchman's life. Like, he gets recruited, you know, maybe he starts out as a bouncer, and maybe he's like a retired like boxer or something like that, and he starts working for some underground, you know, syndicate or something like that, and proves himself, And then one day on the job, he runs into like the guy, like the James Bond or the Keanu Reeves or the Tom Cruise or whatever, and gets absolutely demolished. And then the rest of the story is his 6 weeks in the hospital, 10 years down the line with brain damage and having to eat pudding still because he and he can't like form sentences anymore.
We're just going to follow the villains around for
just
updates.
That one. Just call it Henchman. It's called Henchman.
Yeah, we never hear those stories. Like the whole story just shifts to that alternate player.
Yeah,
I like that.
Or I want to do the story about the guy who, the unfortunate like third world marketplace guy who has the coconuts that he's harvested over the last week, and he's brought them to market to sell them, or the mangoes or whatever, and then like this BMW just plows through it because it's a chase scene for Jason Bourne or whatever. And then what he had, he comes home that night and like, oh, did you do well at the market? He's like, no, a car drove through the mangoes. We're ruined. What are we gonna do? He has to move in with his in-laws.
Yeah, does he have mango insurance?
No mango insurance. Anyway, that's what I wonder about.
All right,
Okay,
you guys.
let's cut it off there.
Let's wrap.